center field. Back toward the track. And that ball is gone.
You are listening to the North Shore 9 podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, make sure to watch NS9 Live every Thursday on Twitch and help support by becoming a patron. Let's go Bucks!
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to this week's edition of Starbucs. I am your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me this glorious morning, Jim, 7 a.m., my co-host, Jim Rosati. What's up, Jim? How you doing, man?
Good morning. It is late July, 7/29, July 29th. The Pirates have a 12% chance of making the playoffs, DiNardo.
Who would have thought? If you were a betting man, probably not you.
There you go. Love it.
I do. So they are currently, Jim, 2-3. And they have a 12% chance of making the playoffs.
2-3. Yeah, they're 2 games out of, the division. So they're not in last place either. Thankfully, the 2020 World Series champion Reds, they won the World Series on opening day. And my pick to win the Central, they have just looked awful. So they are in last place right now.
Yeah. Not a great pick, Jim. Sorry. So far. It's
so
funny.
Far,
I mean, like you're thinking
great,
the first week of baseball is upon us. So you would think, much overreaction. And in all seriousness, a week is huge.
Yeah. I mean, like we were saying before, one game is almost 3 games. So, right. You're now 5 games into the year, which is the equivalent of almost, 2.5 weeks worth of regular baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they're going along. They should have even 3 wins at least. But we'll kind of get into that a little bit.
Sure.
No, they've looked okay. The offense hasn't looked great at times. The bullpen clearly needs some work. But the starting pitchers have been fine. Yeah, so it's they're not as bad as like all these people when they started off they started off 0-2, like, oh my gosh, everybody was like, this team's gonna win 12 games. They're not that bad,
right?
So, and I think if you just look at these first 5 games, you'll notice the starting pitching alone will actually allow them to not be that bad.
I mean, hopefully, yeah. The thing about it is the first 2 games are the first taste of baseball and Pirates baseball that we were really able to see, So if you were going to base, I mean, if all you had was those first 2 games and that's the product that you saw, I understand doom and gloom because those first 2 games were probably about the worst you can watch. It didn't help that we obviously had to open up in St. Louis and play the Cardinals to do so. It wasn't like we were tasked with the I was going to say ability to play the Tigers, but the Tigers, I mean, they're looking actually decent right now. So, it wasn't like we went and played a terrible team also. But, with that said, yes, those 2 games passed. Then we got like 2 innings of the 3rd game, which looked about the same. And like all of a sudden, like this offense came out. Colin Moran was blasting home runs, right and left. And so you got a taste of like what the good looks like also, not just the bad. And I'm with you. So far in this short season, the rotation has looked promising. The piggybacking part as well. If we're going to include Chad Cole into that rotation, a.k.a., then yes, it looks really good because Chad Cole looked really good that day. But this bullpen, there's much to be desired there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear to say, Birdie looks good, which I think we all knew that, going in. And then obviously Kyle Crick now going on the IL. There was something off, and you could tell, those first few outings, his velocity was way down on all of his pitches. He just, even though last year you saw some inconsistency out of him, his stuff was just non-existent in those first couple of games that he pitched. And it reflected itself in the results. And now he winds up on the IL. So I think there was something there. I'm hoping actually there is something there, and this isn't just a take some time off type of thing, because if he is hurt, it would actually explain why, he was doing that, which would mean hopefully he can get back to where he was before.
Right.
If he's not hurt and this is just a phantom IL trip, then we have problems. But
that's why I commented on that last night. And that's why I said it. Like, in an odd way, I'm hoping he is hurt. Like, you don't want to wish injury on people, but seeing this IL stint, I'm hoping something's there, because like you said, now I can relate to why he looks so bad. Because if nothing is there, I mean, we won't be talking about a guy who's washed, and that sucks.
Yeah, and we can't afford to not have him be a good relief pitcher, because outside of him, with Kella still, who knows what's going to happen there. Outside of Birdie right now, we're thinking, we're not going to, outside of Birdie, there's not really anybody there who I trust. Clay Holmes looked good in that first outing, but he also has been super inconsistent his entire career. So, yeah, they need to find some people to step up in that bullpen.
That's for sure. I have a question for you, Jim.
Okay.
Since we're talking about, it's still early season. There's some teams that look really good out there and such, and things can get weird. Are you predicting anyone? And I know we went to over and unders. Based on that, it doesn't sound it. But do you think anyone's going to go 40-20?
I don't think anybody in the National League is going to go 40-20.
Okay.
I could foresee a situation where maybe if the Yankees play 60 games, like, who knows what's happening there now. The Yankees look really good. So that's a team that I think is capable of doing it.
So then let me ask you this, and that's good, because that'd be an AL team. So in the NL, you don't foresee that happening. So are we claiming that the Miami Marlins are going to be the number 1 seed in the NL at 2-1?
Yeah. So that's the thing. Yeah. So the Miami Marlins, with a win percentage of 6.67, could end up being the best team in the league at 2-1 if they just don't play any more games. Now, I don't know if MLB is going to, slap on like a qualifier.
Could you imagine?
That whole situation, it's wild. It's, first off, the fact that they decided to play on Sunday after knowing that, hey, all these guys just tested positive. We probably have some other positive tests out there that we haven't gotten back yet. And that they did a team vote. They didn't follow any kind of protocol that's already in place for this situation. They just took a team vote. And we're talking about athletes. Athletes are always going to put competition ahead of health. That's why they are who they are. Like, they compete more than anything.
Sure.
You can't be a professional athlete and not sacrifice things in your life for the sake of being competitive. Like,
that's a good point.
That's not how they're wired. They've been doing this their entire life. And so they take a team vote. They decide, apparently no one even thinks that they're not going to play. They decide that they're going to play. Next thing you know, there's more positive tests. Thank goodness it doesn't look like the Phillies have had any yet. But at the same point, we don't really know much about this virus to begin with. Does it take 3-4 days before it pops up in your system? Who knows? I don't see how the Marlins or the Phillies can play this week.
Well, they said the Marlins aren't. They're not playing until Monday. And that's at least. So, and from the sounds of it, when they do return, it's going to be the replacements, a bunch of DFA'd guys that they've picked up and, have pieced together to put on a field. I don't think there's anyone, more excited. Right. Well, I'll take that back. No one's really excited to play the Marlins regardless because of the situation. But imagine playing the Marlins upcoming next week. It's like you're just playing a bunch of misfits that have never played with each other, or have been basically cast off their team. And, you're playing like a bunch of AAA guys almost.
Imagine if you were like designated for assignment 3 days ago,
Yes.
and the Marlins pick you up, are you just like, no thanks?
Right. I'm gonna go ahead and insert my opt-out clause now.
Right.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
I'll take my week's worth of pay.
I'm wondering if there's anybody who will do that. Because it's just that whole situation is wild. It's really unfortunate to see that it happened like after one weekend. I mean, you've got one weekend worth of sports and basically an entire team. I mean, there's 30 players on the roster and 15 of them are out.
Right.
That's crazy. Yeah, I don't think baseball foresaw that happening ever.
At least this early. But that's the problem. I mean, they might not have saw it, but you had to prepare for it. And I'm not quite sure if that's what they did. So let's go ahead and move forward. Let's get more into the Pirates themselves. So they are, like you mentioned, 2-3. They're coming off a victory. That was an interesting game. Actually, both were very interesting, Jim. I don't think I saw. If you were to tell me the outcomes, at the 7th inning on both of them, I don't think I think would have been like thinking that the games were flip flopped. The Pirates won the last night's game at being down 5-1. I think, right? Was it 5-1 or was it even worse?
It was 6-2.
6-2. Okay, 6-2. But then they lost the first game being up 5-1. So why don't you tell us a little bit of your takes on those two games?
Yeah, I mean, game 1 against the Brewers. I mean, the rain delay kind of put a little damper on things, but
I see what you did there.
There you go. Brault looked good in his 2 innings of work. Cool looked good in his work as well. So that was good to see. But then again, like I said, bullpen came in after that and just couldn't get anybody out. That 9th inning was just a disaster. And I can't totally fault Shelton on this. Like at some point in time, like your relief pitchers, no matter who they are, should be able to hold a 5-1 lead in the 9th inning.
Right.
That's not like, I don't totally put it on him. It would be, maybe once you see that somebody doesn't have it, pull them a little earlier, right? There's this 3-batter minimum now, but maybe not leave somebody in too long. So I guess you could make an argument there, but I have no
think
problems.
about like even last year to a degree. We had like this issue. It was like the same argument. I mean, you can't put all the blame on the manager. I mean, you have to have more than one person in the bullpen to be successful. You can't just always put the same guy out there every single game, and blame the manager if he's not out there, because if you have to rely on one person, you don't have a bullpen. I mean, you have to be able to rely on a Crick and others, that's why they're there. So I'm with you too. Like I don't put full blame, on the manager for those decisions.
Yeah, I think he has a little bit of blame just for maybe how long he kept Michael Feliz in. Mm-hmm. But after the game comes out, Clay Holmes goes on the IL, so I guess that's why we didn't see him. Birdie, I gotta think that they may do that all season with him, just coming off that arm injury. They may not have him pitch back-to-back games at all.
I fully believe that.
So that could be something where just every time he pitches, he's not available that next day. But yeah, I mean, a 5-1 lead, four run lead in the 9th inning. Michael Feliz and Kyle Crick need to do their job. So essentially that's what it comes down to.
Right.
And they didn't. Neither of them did. So that the bullpen it needs to be better. I don't know if it will be. We saw some good things out of Brubaker, right? So he looked really good in his major league debut. But I want to see some of these other guys come up like Cedarland and see what he can do as well. I think they've got some potential there. They've got talent. They've got lively arms in that bullpen that they can use. It's just a matter of finding out who's got it, who doesn't right now.
And that's a problem with the season, because you can pretty much say that every single year, Jim. And I feel like every single year you have that. You go into the bullpen. That's why we talk about like trading relievers so much. Like, just do it, because every reliever is so volatile. You don't know when it seems like their last game is going to be where they're good. Here we are talking about Kyle Crick, is he washed or not? So, I feel like every single year you're finding out who it is in your bullpen. But you don't really get afforded that opportunity this year because, again, it's 60 games. So, you're heading into this year and you have to rely on those Cricks. Like, those are your guys. Like, Crick, Birdie. Well, I guess you're not really relying. You're hoping still for him. But, you have the guys that you're relying on. And if you're finding out this early that you can't rely on them and it's going to be other guys. I mean, no one can say, okay, JT Brubaker is going to be a mainstay in our rotation or bullpen right now. He's going to be good. You have no idea right now. So, it might be, like you said, there's potential and it might end up being guys that you've never thought of, in this rotation. But right now you kind of have to just figure it out. And that's where the Pirates are. So I'm sure it's probably going to be some rough times soon. But maybe by the end of the season, you're looking at this bullpen and saying, actually, it's pretty good heading into next year.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. So we also got to see on Monday night the first edition of extra inning baseball this year for the Pirates. So what did you think about that? The runner on second role.
Obviously, big picture, hate it. For 2020, who cares? Let's do it. Let's put a guy in third too.
See, I as much as I want this season to just be as weird as possible, I feel like that's still that's a tad too gimmicky. It's not baseball, and I don't think the problem with baseball was the potential for a 15 inning game. Like, how many of those actually happen over the course of a year,
True.
They're not, people don't, at the end of a 15, 16 inning game, they're not like, we need to speed this up. First off, there's hardly anybody who can actually get through a 15 or 16 inning game, watch it. And the ones who do, it's kind of like a badge of honor. Like, oh, I sat through all 16 innings of that game. Right.
I know. Right.
So I don't. I mean, I guess I see where you're coming from. Like, it's a 1 year thing. It better be a 1 year thing though. Like that can't be something that continues.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. Like, long term, I don't want this at all. It's terrible. I hate the idea. Manfred's. I think we're pretty clear where I stand on Manfred over my course of being on all these different shows. Yeah. So I hate the idea, but I could care less right now for this year what they implement. I mean, because we could potentially have a team that's 2-1 at the end of the season.
Right. That is true, I guess. I am happy they're not doing it for the postseason. Doing it for the postseason would have been awful.
Right.
So I guess that's good. I kind of look at it like it's like our version of like a shootout, in hockey, but it's like, hey, let's do something to get this game over with.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't love it, but
gotcha.
It didn't work out in our favor on Monday. So hopefully next time we run into that situation, it works out for us.
Yeah. Don't put your coins on it, Jim. All right. Yeah, but I definitely did. Let's go back real quick and we'll move forward. Just because I have to, because I know I'm chomping the bit to talk about him. I know you are to a degree. Chad Cole. I mean, he looked good, right?
Yeah, no, he looked really good. His stuff looked good. I think that was about as good of an outing that you could have, asked from him. He was striking batters out. He was not walking, and he walked a couple people there, but he came in, he picked up right where Brault. I mean, that's exactly what you want to see from that piggybacking situation. Him and Brault combined for 5 2/3 scoreless innings.
Right.
So that was picked up more than a strikeout per inning. So that helps with my over under right there a little bit.
There you go.
So no, he looked really good. It was good to see him back on the mound, and I think that, like I said, I said it last week, but this whole situation that we're in when it comes to this season is like the perfect way to get back into it,
True.
He doesn't have to go out there and pitch 150 innings. He doesn't have to go out there and throw 6 innings at a time. This season is like a perfect situation for him.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see how he can progress throughout the rest of the year.
Oh, for sure. And what I like too is, I mean, not that it was a bad thing like at all, but like he really fell in love with the slider. You could tell he was feeling his slider that night. And I mean, it was one strikeout. He threw it 3 times in a row and struck the guy out. You know, it was just like, if you're not going to hit this, I'm going to keep throwing it. And I felt like that's how he felt. And it's kind of how it showed too. So it was nice seeing it wasn't just, we're kind of used to that Chad Kuhl, just fastball. Of course, that was almost every pitcher. So he actually threw the slider the most that game. I mean, actually 23 times of the 55 pitches were sliders, you know, and he was throwing it almost back to back sometimes. So yeah, it was really nice to see, like you said, like the filth that was on a lot of his pitches for the first game back as well. So I'm definitely excited to see more of Chad. But yeah, I love the Brault Chad Kuhl combination. I think that can be really good. And of course, seeing the combo that night, even though it was technically cut short because of the rain delay, I'm definitely excited for that. So okay, so let's go ahead and move forward. So we have obviously we're going to play the Brewers today, finish that one up. Off day tomorrow, and then Friday we go ahead and face the Cubs for the weekend series. So let's go ahead and do our little preview and breakdown here of the upcoming series. The Chicago Cubs, who Jim are in first place, 4-1. So they're running away with this division, Jim. But let's go ahead and talk about them a little bit.
Yeah, so the Cubs, I haven't watched them a ton this year, but just kind of looking at how they're doing. They're playing really well. They lead the majors in home runs. They are third in weighted runs created plus.
Yep.
They lead the majors in starting pitcher WAR. They've got the best starters ERA in the majors. So one time through the rotation, the Cubs are looking pretty good. And you know, I mentioned, you know, last week too that, you know, that designated hitter position kind of sets the Cubs up perfectly, being able to slot Kyle Schwarber in there. So I mean, Schwarber's been batting cleanup, and he's been playing pretty well. So they've got a team where they're a little bit, you know, they've got some older guys on that team, but they can all play. And I don't think their starting rotation is as good as they've been this first go around. But so far they have looked like the best team in the division.
Right. And I'm with you on the starting pitching. I think it's going to falter to the degree that it's at, of course. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a very, very good rotation so far in these quick 5 games. The hitters have been good. And this is the scary part. This is what I'm worried about. You know, again, the third best way to run created plus in baseball, and Chris Bryant has been awful. You know, like he hasn't woken up yet. You know,
right.
What happens if it's the Pirate series that Chris Bryant decides to wake up? I mean, to a degree, you know, we've gotten lucky with the Brewers because it seems, I mean, Christian Yelich is now 1 for 22? Is that what it is right now? 21, 22, something like that?
He's 1 for 22, I think. Yeah, I think that's right.
So, you know, like the MVP of baseball, of, you know, the NL comes in and, you know, he's hitless for the Pirates. You know, that helps. You know, the Brewers, I think, haven't really woken up, but like that's the same thing. Like your Christian Yelich is now Chris Bryant. He hasn't woken up yet. So what if he comes in and he wakes up, and that could be a very, very dangerous lineup. So I'm with you, man.
Yeah, if Chris Bryant wakes up, then we're probably in a little bit of trouble. But yeah, I mean, Rizzo has been really good. Baez has been really good. Just kind of looking through here, Wilson Contreras off to a good start as well. So, yeah, I mean, top to bottom, they look like they've been hitting other than Chris Bryant, like you mentioned. Yeah, so we'll see. I think from like do we want to do our keys to success right now? Kind of the 3 things we want to do.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go ahead and play our new segue.
And I knew exactly what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea what to do.
So Jim, the Bob Walks Key to Success by Jim and Denaro.
All right. So I think the first Bob Walks key to success, and it's the same thing that I mentioned last week, is the starters have to go deeper into the game. Starters have looked good so far. I think you mentioned it, they're 9th best in baseball from an ERA standpoint. Mm-hmm. So they're pitching good. But they've got to go deeper. they've got to get at least through that 6th inning, because the bullpen can't be relied upon to throw really anything. But if you need them, you're going to end up needing them at some point. But you want to limit the amount of innings that the bullpen is throwing. So I think first key there, starting pitchers have to go deep. They've got to be effective, and they've got to go deep into the game.
Fully agree. There's my analysis. I mean, there's not much to say. Right. I think anyone can really answer that to the degree. I mean, we see the bullpen is. So you cannot rely on this bullpen to get you, 5, 6, 7, 8, into the 9th inning to get the birdie. We have to limit that as much as possible. So, for sure.
I think another key, Josh Bell has to get going. So Josh Bell has been cold to start the season. Hasn't really looked great at the plate. He hasn't no home runs through 5 games. He's got to get going, and he's got to be able to anchor this offense, because there are guys who have been kind of picking up his slack, like Colin Moran and Phillip Evans have hit these first 5 games. They're about it though, and we really need Josh Bell to be there in that middle of the order as someone who can drive runners in, get on base, and hit the ball over the fence. Like he's gonna have to start doing that.
Yeah, I want to kind of expand upon that. I mean, yeah, Josh Bell for sure, because of everything that he presents. But 1, 2, 3, whoever's in that order at 1, 2, 3 has to, because it's been abysmal. It's like we've talked about this to start the season, especially that first game on NS9 Live too, like how the back end of this lineup, how awful it is. And the front end is just as awful. It's like we're literally relying on 4, 5, and that's it. Either 4, 5 or 5, 6 to carry this offense. And, it's just surrounded, it's sandwiched in between just awfulness. So, 1, 2, 3 has to get going, because Newman, Frazier, and of course, as you mentioned, leading into Josh Bell, have just, all of them looked awful. Now, Frazier hit a home run last night. I don't know if that's going to wake him up. I hope. But yeah, this top of the lineup, if the back end is going to be that bad, the top end has to be good and productive. So.
Yeah, no, that could completely agree. Brian Reynolds off to a slow start. He finally got going yesterday. Mm-hmm. Frazier, like you mentioned, finally had the home run. Kevin Newman has a batting average under 100 right now. So yeah, they have looked bad. Kevin Newman has an OPS of 229 right now. That's just terrible. I'd like to see Polanco get going too. Obviously he just came back.
Yeah,
Polanco is a guy who could clearly, help out that lineup as well once he gets slotted in there every day.
True.
So those are my first 2 keys. Third key, got to come up with on the fly here a little bit. But I like the play from our catchers so far. And I think that's been kind of key to the pitcher success. And also, they've been kind of anchoring that bottom of the lineup right now. So continued production from the catcher position, whether that's Jacob Stallings or John Ryan Murphy, because those are things that we didn't really expect. Like we expected that they would play solid defense, but anything they gave us with the bat would be a bonus. So having those 2 guys, really, John Ryan Murphy has 2 starts. He's gotten the job done in both of those starts from an offensive standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Stallings has been one of the best hitters on the team, for this year. He's somebody like he walks up to the plate and I don't feel like completely, like we're helpless anymore. So that's good to see. He actually looks like a pretty decent major league catcher, to be honest with you. Defensively, the framing's been there, and that's been able to help pick up a few extra strike calls that have been much needed. So that'll be my third key, just continued production out of the catcher spot.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And something I want to add on to that, and I think the key word expecting, I'll put it this way. I mean, there's a lot of hype about Jacob Stallings, how he's a top 10 catcher and this and that heading into the season. And I felt that with caution because, it was limited time last year. It was a complete fundamental change. And this is what he was. This has not been what he has been throughout his career. So, I wanted to see how it carried over into this year. So I would put it this way. I was hopeful that there'd be good defense out of the catching position. And what I've seen so far, Jim, it's the real deal. Him behind the plate, Jacob Stallings, has looked fantastic. And you want to talk about pitch framing. It has looked fantastic. Now, part of it can be the umps have also looked awful. So it maybe helped in that favor. But, you can't blame him if that is the case. So far with the eye test, it has looked really, really good. So, yes, if that could carry over, the bat, you've never relied on Jacob Stallings' bat. That's not why you had him up here. He wasn't going to be a catcher regardless into the future. But now that he has that defense and that framing behind him, that he can be. So I'm with you, too. The catching has looked – I've been very, very pleased with the backstop position this year. And it has been with both of them. So I feel you, man. The catching is nice. It helps the pitching. Yeah. And with Oscar Green, you have two sides that are helping out the pitching there to make, the pitching look even better. That's why it's so important.
Yeah, just from a defensive standpoint, they've been great. Like I said, the offense, anything you get out of there's a bonus, but you can actually kind of start almost relying on them a little bit. Mm-hmm. But his throws to second on stolen base attempts have looked awesome. And yeah, like you said, the framing, especially when he's going across his body. So like that pitch where it's either inside to a lefty or outside on a right-handed batter. And like I said, it could be the umpires. I don't know, but there's something about that specific pitch location where if you look, that's where he's been really good at. He's been getting that call off the plate, either outside to a righty or inside to a lefty. So, and those are typically on sliders or comeback fastballs, things like that, sinkers. But he's been doing a really good job with that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I like those three keys. But yeah, like just going into the Cubs, this is my prediction. I believe so. Of the team that was going to win it. The division, they've looked pretty good so far. As mentioned, the third best offense in baseball, the best rotation, but it's also the worst bullpen. So, if we can get to this bullpen early, I don't know how with this pathetic offense we've had so far, but if we can, there is hope because it's been bad. And as I mentioned on the show yesterday, Kimbrel, I know it's just one outing, it's his first one, but he comes in and he couldn't get anyone out. At 4 walks and only recorded 1 out in that return to baseball for him. So, if we can get to their bullpen, we have a chance. But the problem is they're going to get to ours eventually too, and they have that offense. So we'll find out. I'm intrigued by this upcoming series, more or less, I guess, to see the Cubs than anything else. But all right, any other things you want to wrap and talk about for the Cubs?
No, let's pick up a couple of W's.
All right, let's do it. Well, let's go ahead and we'll wrap up and finish the show with our fantasy wheel, Jim. So let's kind of recap last week.
Or we could not recap last week.
Honestly, I thought you were going to take this. The way the draft fell, your team definitely looked better. You had Mike Trout. Jesus, for God's sakes. But it wasn't a good outing, Jim. I actually beat you by categories 8-1. The only one you took me in was the K's for pitchers. You had Scherzer. I had John Lester, got me 1 strikeout. And that was it. I pretty much swept you everywhere, and I think it was a push on saves, and that was it. So,
yeah, it wasn't great. It was not great. I take full responsibility for how my players.
Responsibility.
So how we do? So I made the picks. I made the first picks last, or did we all? We were alternating, right?
Yeah.
So okay, we'll just keep that going then.
So I guess since I won, I get to go first, right?
And that sounds good.
Okay,
we can make up that roll right now.
Sure. All right, so we'll start with the catching position, of course.
All
All right, so let's go ahead and spin this wheel. It's spinning, Jim. It's spinning. Oh, boy. Christian Vasquez. You know, the thing about the catching position, there's some really, really, really bad catchers. You know, at the Jacob Stallings point, they're probably there just for their glove. Christian Vasquez, I mean, I could do better. But I also kind of feel I could do a lot worse. You know what? I'm giving you Christian Vasquez.
Okay.
I'm a little
I feel
bit
like I could do worse than that. I could do worse than
gambling
that.
man. And I've been afforded. I have the win, so and I can risk stuff. I'm ahead of you so far this year. So then, who I'm going to be left with is, oh, of course, I gotta make sure I start updating these. He is technically on the IL, so I have to spin again. But I got Jorge Alfaro.
Now you gotta be stuck with him.
We're just gonna take all Marlins off this list.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
speaking of,
No Marlins are eligible.
Robinson Chirinos. All right, I'll take
Has he been playing too?
I think so.
Okay. I just looked up. Christian Vasquez is the second best weighted runs created plus out of catchers so far this year.
In what, like 3 at-bats? I'm just joking with you. All right, so move on to first base. You're up, Jim. The wheel is spinning. You are, talk about someone being hot. Eric Hosmer.
He is hot right now. But I don't know if that's going to continue. I'm going to give you Eric Hosmer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like making fun of Eric Hosmer at all times. So, but I'll take it. I'll ride the hot streak. Let's see if it goes into week 2.
He is super hot right now, but like I said, I don't know if that can keep up.
Well, Jim, that leaves you with Ryan Braun.
Okay.
That could be a wash.
Yeah. I was hoping for Josh Bell. Get him out of the slump.
There you go. I mean, as far as first base, I mean, that's where you want your offense from. Eric Hosmer and Ryan Braun. Oof. I am up.
If it were like 2008, or 2011 or something like that, would be good.
Right. Oh yeah. All right. So I'm gonna take the second baseman of Jose Altuve.
Probably a good choice.
And then you, Jim, you are left with. Oh, Ketel Marte.
There we go.
That's not bad.
No, not at all.
Let's get to our shortstop. You're up here. I mean, Chirinos, Hosmer, Altuve, Vasquez, Braun, Marte. These aren't terrible lineups like they were last week. As a shortstop, you got Mondesi.
So he's been real bad to start the year. But I think that means he's due. And I could use some stolen bases in fantasy. So we're going to go with – I'm going to take him. I'm going to keep him.
I hear the strategy, Jim. Listen to you. Playing the stolen base category.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to get that stolen base category.
I get Nico Goodrum. Wow, what awesome shortstops.
Yeah.
I guess I'm hoping for the stolen bases there too.
Right.
All right, so I'm up. Third base. Let's get back to a power spot, Jim. First base was a dud. Will the will grant us... Oh, no. Yandy Diaz. Guess what, Jim? You got Yandy Diaz. Congratulations.
I don't even know if he's been playing. I don't even know if he's their starting third baseman.
Actually, do you want to look that up real quick? Because if so, I'll respin. And that way you
Hold
don't
on,
get
let me
him.
look.
Because this was done before the season.
So he has four starts
Okay.
in 5 games. So yeah.
Yeah, you're keeping him.
Yeah.
Listen to you trying to get out of Yandy Diaz.
I
Feeding me all these lies.
I was like, Rays have to have somebody better than that.
Well, no one better than this, Jim. There's nobody better in baseball than Colin Moran. Give me Moran. The hot streak continues.
Your team's loaded.
All right. We'll move on to left fielders. You're up. Okay. Hunter Renfroe. I know, right?
Yeah, he's about as average as they come. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna give you Hunter Renfroe.
Okay. I'll take it. But I fully get where you're at. It's like you could do better.
You could do better. You could do worse.
Marcano.
All right. I think I did worse. He's actually been hitting all right. But yeah.
It's just a week. You just need someone to have a really, really good game.
Exactly.
Kano breakout week. And you're good.
He's not bad at all. I'll take it.
All right. So I'm up first then, right? Or you are?
You are up now because I passed Renfroe to you.
Gotcha. So center fielders, Teoscar Hernandez. I mean, it's a center field. You know, I feel like I could definitely do worse, but how much worse? You're gonna get Teoscar.
Okay,
I'm giving you.
He's been hitting so far. He's got 2 bombs.
I want to pull the rabbit on my hat. Let's go, Mike Trout. Let's go, Mike Trout. Ooh, Jackie Bradley Jr. was hitting the ball really well. I just missed him. I got Nick Senzel though.
Who is?
He's out.
I don't know. He's not on the IL. They're just like precautionary with him.
Okay. I'll keep him then. He's on the IL. He's there.
Yep.
And then now we'll move over to our right fielders before we get to our pitching. So, Jim, this means you are up. How you feeling about your team so far?
I don't love it.
All right. So, theoretically, I think we might have to respin because I'm pretty sure he's not back, or is he this week? Austin Meadows.
I haven't heard any Austin Meadows news.
Yeah, I think he's just returning.
Okay.
So we'll spin again.
All right.
I mean, if you want to, unless you want to keep him.
We'll spin again.
Okay. Well, guess you're rooting for the Cubs, Jim. Jason Hayward. Do you want him?
I'm gonna pass Jason Hayward.
I guess I'm rooting for the Cubs.
You are rooting for the Cubs.
All right. That's definitely one too. Like, I feel like you could definitely do better.
If like defense was in this, then it'd be better. I'd probably keep him.
Well, you're stuck with this guy, Steven Piscotty. Very slow start for him, I've seen. But
he's due. It means he's due.
There you go. He's due. So last week, this was a dud, and then it got really hot. And I feel like this week it was really hot and then turned to a dud. Yeah,
the outfielders were not great.
So McKenna, Hernandez, and Piscotty for you. Hayward, Senzel, and Renfroe for me. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. We're left to the starting pitching. This could do it. I mean, once you have a really good outing by a starting pitcher, I have a bad one by a starting pitcher, and you could eat up some categories.
Aces should pitch twice this week too. So all these guys should get 2 starts.
So was I up, right?
You are up. Yeah.
So I'm up, and I have Matthew Boyd. I feel like I'm going to give you Matthew Boyd.
Probably a good choice on your part.
But then, which leads me to Madison Bumgarner.
I'd probably rather have him than Boyd, though.
Speaking of which, I know we talked about him, but the Diamondbacks, Starling Marte, doing his thing over there.
I haven't watched them too much, so I'm not positive how they're doing.
I think he's batting high 300s. He's got a few doubles. Got a stolen base yesterday. But Marte, now, of course, you'd want Ketel doing it. Not so much Starling, but.
Yeah, I need Ketel.
All right, so you're up for the relievers. You land on, that's nice. Nick Anderson.
I'll take Nick Anderson.
He could actually really help make up for Boyd's deficiencies.
That's true. He probably won't get the saves, but.
Right, but you might be able to rack up the Ks here.
Yep.
And then I am left with Brad Hand.
One of your better options.
I'll take it. So a rundown here. You, Jim, coming off a 8-1 loss. Christian Vasquez, Ryan Braun, Ketel Marte, Adalberto Mondesi, Yandy Diaz, Marquena, Teoscar Hernandez, Steven Piscotty, Matthew Boyd, Nick Anderson.
We're gonna flip the script this week. We're gonna win 8-1.
There you go. And then I got Robinson Chirinos, Eric Hosmer, Jose Altuve, Nico Goodrum, Colin Moran, Hunter Renfroe, Nick Senzel, Jason Hayward, Madison Bumgarner, Brad Hand. These are awful. These are awful. But as you pointed out,
they're not great.
It was really the only reason I won was because of these type of players actually were productive last week for me. There
you go. Yeah.
No one was expecting Maikel Franco to carry my team, and he did.
I'm expecting a big week out of Mondesi. That's who I'm gonna have my eye on.
All right. So, yeah, I don't think I have anyone I want to particularly watch for my fantasy team this year or this week. I guess Colin Moran is it. That's like my best option right now. It's Colin Moran
and Hayward. You'll watch both of them.
Oh yeah, I guess I'll watch. Yeah, I guess that's true. I'll have to watch Hayward. I'm forced to this week, Jim.
Right.
All right. Well, at least you have Ketel Marte. I have
he's
Colin
fun.
Moran. So, man. All right. Well, I think this pretty much wraps up our show. Is there anything else you wanted to add or say?
I think we're good. We got game tonight. We play tomorrow, or we're off tomorrow?
Yep, off tomorrow.
So
NS9
off tomorrow.
Live will be on tomorrow at 9 with no game.
Yeah, so we'll be on tomorrow night, off night. Maybe talk about some other games that are going on and preview the Cup Series.
I like it. All right. Well, with that said, so again, check us out tomorrow night, NS9 Live, Sundays the podcast, and then of course next week we return on Wednesdays, Denard Dugout on Tuesday. We'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.
Later.